Hey everyone, another episode of Technical Explanation, the wrestling show. And today my guest is George Dixon. George, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great this morning. Thanks.
Looks like you're on a tropical island. Where are you calling from, man?
Well, I'm down near Hilton Head, South Carolina, but in Bluffton on the mainland. But yeah, my background is a palm tree. Actually, here it wasn't even at the beach. It was right here near the house, and just caught a kind of decent little background on it. And it makes me look like home.
Yeah. Well, anyone in the north that's watching is jealous of you because right now we have quite a different view up here outside.
Well, we went through some really warm weather last week. I think today is supposed to be about 60. So cooler for us, but yeah, that would be relative to you, very warm.
Yeah. So man, excited to have you on. Thanks for being flexible. We've spoke a couple times, supposed to shoot a couple of times, finally are doing it now. So we're a couple weeks into the season. What have you been able to do so far? What are some of the tournaments or things that you've been doing now? What are we 3 or 4 weeks in? What have you been up to?
Well, it depends on which state you're in. I do Georgia and South Carolina, obviously based out of South Carolina, but Georgia's been going for a week and a half longer. So they've actually been going for dang near a month now. They started the week before Thanksgiving. So they've been going for a little while. South Carolina's about a week and a half behind. So, but for me, I'm the head official for the Super 32 and coordinate the guys for that. So going back to the third week of October with the Super 32. So the high school stuff has been kicking up, and so been very busy 5 and 6 nights a week with that stuff. And then next week I go down to Florida for the knockout, and then the day after we have a tournament here locally at May River High School, the Shark Invitational. 2 days, I think around 30 teams. So it should be a nice show for that one as well.
Did I hear you right? So you started your season with a Super 32, just jumped right into that?
That is an amazing event, and Dave Barker and Sarah Koenig, they do a great job with it. And I've been very lucky going back to my college time and working at Appalachian State's wrestling camps. I was lucky enough to meet Dave and his father, who both were high school coaches. And then Dave wound up starting the tournament and saw me at high school nationals in Virginia Beach. And he's like, hey, I want you to come down and work my tournament. So, having known him from there, I wound up, stepping in to coordinate his guys. And it's been beneficial for both of us. His tournament has blown up, and it's obviously now one of the top, if not the top, folkstyle tournament in the country for high school. So obviously Fargo's a freestyle destination event. Well, Greensboro and Super 32 are that folk style spot. So
yeah, one of our past guests, Evan Burchett, was there, and I think he drew that finals match between, what was it? Was it Knox and
Bassett? Was it
Bassett?
that one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's a tough tournament, man, to start the season off.
It used to be worse. Now there's some other summer stuff happening. It's not the big, huge break from like state tournaments and then maybe high school nationals in Virginia Beach. Boom. And then it's October and it's a Super 32. Going back a ways, when I first jumped in with it, it was a 1-day event. And we started at 8 a.m. and we would finish after 11 p.m. And you're talking 3-on-2, just a grind. But every match from the first whistle is a state finals level match. In some cases, they're world level matches where you have cadet world champs and junior world champs and placers going at it, so going back to Fix and Snyder, and there have been plenty of guys that came through. And I know out of your home state, you talked to Harry McDonald, and Harry had one of those finals. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, about 5 years ago, maybe. And it was
he had Dayton Fix and Surrey. I don't know.
It was Suriano.
I think it was Fix and Suriano.
Suriano and Fix. Yeah. But it was a barn burner. And on Flow, and it was the most watched match.
Yep, that's it.
For Flow, as they're keeping up with which ones are being watched the most. So, he got lucky, and I don't always place those guys in the finals. It's a just kind of however it falls out. Now I will with the little quick guys. I'm not putting a bigger official in there. I'll save them toward the heavier weights, but which is why Burchett was down low in the little light squirty guys that are flying around everywhere.
Awesome, man. Wow. I mean, that that's on my bucket list, one of those tournaments, and I'm not really good at my bucket list because the Ironman's here in Ohio and I've still never been to it. But so maybe I need to take those a little more serious. But South Carolina and Georgia, tell us a little bit about what's going on official wise in those two states. I mean, I could guess, but I'd like to hear it from you. I mean, how you guys doing with numbers?
Well, unfortunately, we're in the same boat as the rest of the country with wrestling. And the officials, we just don't have enough. South Carolina, our big area, Greenville, Spartanburg, they are at about half the numbers they would normally have. They normally run around 50 officials. They're down around 24, 25. For us down in the Low Country, which is the coast of South Carolina, my district runs from the Georgia border all the way to the North Carolina border and the whole coast. So it's based out of Charleston, obviously, but which is right in the middle. For us, also low numbers. Whether it was a COVID thing or crazy parents, crazy coaches, just riding the officials too hard. I think a lot of factors have gone into it. Georgia, same thing. There's a couple of large associations in the Atlanta area. One of those is normally pushing about 130, 150 officials on a given year. They're running about half that, around 80. So a lot of guys getting a lot more work. Schools we're having to tell them, look, you can't do all of your stuff in one night. You got to spread the stuff out. So with Georgia, I work around the Savannah area with that association. And we have them spread out. I mean, we have stuff Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then obviously, you'll have tournament stuff on Friday, Saturday. South Carolina, I'm in Beaufort County, and that is all the high school pretty much runs on Wednesday nights. But they also were trying to run middle school, JV, everything on the same night. We don't have the guys to do it. I mean, we just are, we're way too shy on bodies. So I deal a lot with the middle school because I work in a middle school, and I help our team there. And we're told that I told them, look, we got to go Thursday nights. If we want to do middle school, if you want officials, you're going to have to go to Thursday night. So we did. We moved it off of Wednesday with middle school. We're doing Thursdays. And I think next year, the coaches and I, we've discussed it. We'll be probably doing JV stuff on Tuesday nights to spread it out because we just don't have the numbers. I love that we have that problem. We've got so many schools that are wrestling for our county. It's more than we've ever had. The problem is we don't have the officials to take care of all the work on a given night in our area on Wednesday nights. So,
hey, give your school and your team a shout out. What's the name of the school and the mascot?
Well, we'll have to go with those mighty McCracken Bulldogs, the green and black and white. They've been around for a long time, and we actually this past weekend, our middle school, we do a qualifier. We actually have a middle school and JV state tournament. It's called the Carolina Invitational. It's January 22nd. There's a qualifying round that started this past Saturday, and the mighty McCracken Bulldogs, they pulled a first for the school. They finished in the top spot.
Nice.
And so we had 6 in the finals. We had 5 champs, a runner-up, and we had 14 kids place and move on to the next round. So they had to be top 6, and so they're moving on to Somerville High School. Coach Daryl Tucker up in Somerville. he'll be hosting that event, and they'll get in there and hopefully from that one move on to the state tournament the following week, which will be at Lexington High School in Columbia. So,
okay, so
very, very happy with them. So,
2 qualifying rounds and then state then?
For middle school JV.
Okay, what do you have to place at the second one then?
Third, top 3.
Top 3.
Yeah,
That's
top
awesome.
3. Yeah, so we have a girls division in that as well, and the girls division, you automatically qualify. We don't have that many girls yet in the state wrestling, so it's not a sanctioned sport at the high school level. In Georgia, it has been for a couple of years, but South Carolina, we're not quite there yet, and so our girls all qualify to the tournament in Lexington, the Carolina Invitational, just by being a female wrestler. So, but the girls were allowed to wrestle last weekend in the boys stuff to get mat time.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's the way that you have to start it, right? That's what they did in Ohio too. Ohio's not sanctioned. I think this year will be the 3rd girls state tournament. It's put on by the Ohio Coaches Association. But the first year was if you wanted to participate, sign up. But then the next year, just, it blows up. So, you got to do those things first, and then for people to even know that they exist. So it sounds like you guys are on the right track there.
Well, we're trying. I mean, we got to, again, like you said, start somewhere to make it happen. And we've been lucky, again, with our numbers. We need more, obviously, for the ladies, but that's coming. The time is coming. I think women's wrestling right now is a godsend for men's wrestling at the college level. It's really allowing us that advantage of keeping focus on the sport, where I think it had been waning to a certain degree.
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of jumped into this, but I mean, you're a wrestling official. You're doing some of the best tournaments. You're a coach. How did your wrestling story start? Like, how did you first get involved into wrestling?
Funny story. My coach actually came from Ohio. I'll back up one step further. H.E. McCracken, which is the middle school I work at, used to be the high school, and it was a 7 through 12. And back in the late 70s, Coach Mike Story, bless his soul, he just passed away not long ago. He started the program at H.E. McCracken. So it was a couple years old, and when I jumped in as a sophomore, I didn't even start until my sophomore year. But I went out, and I think I was like 4-2 or something, back up wrestling, whatever I could get in. And then I hurt my back. So my junior year, I'm like, yeah, probably not going to do this anymore. And my parents were pretty excited about that. They didn't really want me wrestling anyway. But my family was more about coming off the top rope. It wasn't about amateur wrestling. So they weren't exactly sure what it was anyway. But my junior year, Dave Martin, who was at Coventry up in Ohio, Akron Coventry.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So he was a Zip back in the day. He had gone to Akron, but he had moved down with his wife, and they took over the wrestling team, and he heard that I had wrestled the year before, and it's like, hey, I'm beating the bushes. He was also an assistant football coach, so he's like, got me in football. He's like, okay, come on, you got to get back out here. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'll be okay. And he's like, nope, you're coming. You're gonna be a part of the team. So I went back out, and on 3 days of practice, I went to a tournament and finished third. And so he's like, see, it was meant to be. You're supposed to be out here. So that hooked me. I did well at the tournament, and so I went through my junior year. I finished second in the state, and my senior year, not as much. Got too much weight. Did it wrong. I was helping out the team, but I was a 167 pounder, and I cut to 158. So I just lost too much weight. And after being undefeated at 167, my senior year, I dropped to 58, and still did well, but I lost at our lower state tournament, the qualifier before the state round, or the state tournament finals. And So it is what it is. I stayed around locally. I coached at Hilton Head High for a couple years. My gig at practice was to wrestle with Scott Moody and Joe Beck. Scott was a 3-timer, Joe was a 2-timer, and my job was literally just to wrestle those two and beat on them and make them better. And so that's what I did, and for a couple years. And so, like I said, Scott was 3-time champ, and Joe was 2-time, and Scott wound up in Faces in the Crowd in Sports Illustrated. So didn't have the grades, so he wound up looking at some JUCOs. He wanted to go to Clemson, just couldn't get in. Took some JUCOs and looked at them. Went to Garden City, Kansas, to actually go to school. But he had gone to Lassen College out in California, Susanville, California. So his dad was like, "Look, get the hell out of here. You need to go. So nothing but trouble around here for you. Go away." And so, having never been to California or west of the Mississippi at that point, I was like, okay, all right. So I called the coach, and he's like, yeah, we can still use you or use somebody at the weight. So yeah, come on out. That was Dave Foster, who's now in the Hall of Fame for California. But I went up your way, went through and saw a buddy of mine in Columbus. So hung out on High Street a little bit, and then went on up to, I'm going to space it, the Mohican. Went up to the Mohican, did some rafting, hung out up there, and then drove on out on 80 and headed west. Got to Susanville, California, went up to Eagle Lake, hung out at Eagle Lake for a week and a half, 2 weeks before school started. Jumped into wrestling, and JUCO wrestling in California is a different thing. At the time, there were 60, 70 schools in California that had JUCO wrestling. And I just, the championships are run in December. So they ran off. Heck, it might have been last weekend as well in California that they went off. But so we got done in December with the wrestling stuff. And, I did that. I was looking at Humboldt College out on the coast and almost went to school out there to wrestle. One of the buddies, Jeff Hernandez, on the team, went out to Humboldt. So we were going to both go there. Wound up not doing it. Transferred and went to App State. And I got to Appalachian State, wrestled for a year. Knee had a little MCL issue, and I was just on that ragged edge and, went over the edge. So I was done. But I stayed, obviously, and finished up, got my degree, came back to Hilton Head, and I was going to be trying to get work there. And just at the time, the economy sucked. And so I didn't get anything work-wise that I was looking for. So I went to work at the high school, then Hilton Head High. And because the H.E. McCracken, my senior year closed and became a middle school. And the high school was then Hilton Head High on Hilton Head Island. And so I graduated, the first graduating class out of Hilton Head High in 84. And then in 92, I'm back there working and wind up the coach, again, an Ohio guy. He, right before school started, decided he wasn't teaching anymore. So he was fed up with it, quit, and AD came to me, said, "Hey, how about you being the head coach?" Okay. So he put the football coach as my assistant just for the administrative stuff, because I'm coming fresh in. I don't know anything about the eligibility and everything we have to do administratively. So he stuck the football coach with me for a year. And then my next year, Scott Moody was back in town, and he was working and finished up as well with college. And so he came in and was my assistant for a couple of years. Harry McDonald came in the second year with Moody. And so Harry was my assistant as well for, a good chunk of that tenure. And then in 2000, I was done after several state champs and rankings as high as goodbye, Ty. My son Ty is leaving.
Hi, Ty.
He's going to have a little afternoon with work. And so love you, buddy. See you later.
Love it. See you later.
All right. Bye. So I started reffing and I was lucky. God blessed me with lots of good people around me. Main one, early on was Dino White, and Dino's here in South Carolina, director of officials for the state. And he, I don't know what he saw in me, but he's like, okay, you need to come on and hit my coattails, and I'm gonna take you places. Okay, so good deal. I'll do that. So my first year officiating, I did Georgia and South Carolina. So I was done coaching at the beginning of 2000. At the end of 2000, I'm refereeing, doing both states because I'm 18 minutes from downtown Savannah. So I'm reffing both, and I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm digging it. And well, on the Georgia side, Bud Henneball, who's way up in everything wrestling in the country right now, he helps out with D1s. He's a salesman for wrestled, and high up in Georgia wrestling, and also anything and everything else with national stuff with wrestling as well. So Bud was down doing a tournament in Savannah, and he saw me, and he's like, "Where you been?" Well, just I was coaching, and now I'm reffing. So he pulled me in on the Georgia side and helped fast track me on that side. Dino was fast tracking me on the other side. So first year, both states, you don't get a state tournament your first year. You're doing really well, but no, it's not going to happen. So my second year, Georgia, I get a 3A state tournament. And at that time, I think there were 5A, that was 1 to 5. But so in the middle, South Carolina said after my first year, "Oh yeah, next year we'll get you. You'll be at the state tournament." Well, the next year I wasn't, but I did get the qualifier that round before for state. Well, that second year, Dino, who is doing high school nationals, which is then the NHSCA senior nationals, it was in Cleveland. And so he's like, "All right, come on up. We're going to go hang out in Cleveland. Ride up with me. We're going to hobnob with the other officials, with, Bob Ferraro and Jeannie Ferraro. We'll hang out with them. It'll be great. And we'll try to get you in up here and working this." I was like, "Okay." Well, the week before, the week we're supposed to head up, Dino's water heater blows up. Dino says, "Hey, dude, I can't make it with you, George. You're going to have to go." And said, "But I talked to the Ferraros. They're good. I told them I had a guy who could get the job done. So you're going to take my spot." I was like, "What? Wait, what? No. So I went up and hung out with the guys. And these are, at that time, a lot of college guys were still reffing that. And at that time, it was still top 2 state placers. You had to be a state finalist to even get to senior nationals. Today, you can come. It's not as stringent with the requirements to qualify. So back then, you had to be top 2, and there were a lot of just strong high school wrestlers there. So that basically was, honestly, every match was a finals match. It was that level. So I got up there and I did a good enough job. I got a final, my first year up there. And then I ran through NHSCA, and I got finals every year for, I don't know, about 15. And then the head official for that, we had moved, I did 3 years in Cleveland. Then it went to Pittsburgh to the Peterson Center for a year. And then it moved down to Virginia Beach, where it is now, at the convention center. Well, the guy that was in charge had a falling out with the Ferraros. And so Dino became the director of officials. And so I was right by his side, again, luckily being in the right place, the right time. Dino had been there from the start, from the very first one. And so I was lucky. So then, it got bigger and bigger. And then we had the national duels going, and that got bigger and bigger. And so I've been lucky enough that, Dino, with the director, we needed more help. So I became the coordinator of officials for the NHSCA. And that was probably, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe. So I'm no longer on the mat in Virginia Beach. I'm there, coordinate the guys, the lead in stuff and that sort of thing. And then with the national duels for the NHSCA in Virginia Beach, I'm there again, not on the mat, but I get to evaluate and help the guys, give them feedback, help them get better. It's kind of that bouncing up from there to high school nationals now out of the duels. And so we've been lucky. That's been growing and growing. And now it's, I think they're going to 68 mats this year in Virginia Beach. So it's huge. But again, luckily, I've been in position to help others. I've had lots of folks along the way that I've been lucky enough to work with. Again, Harry being one of those. And he's now our co-head for the national duels. He and Carlos Mansell, who's a Big 12 official. And I've been lucky enough to have worked with Carlos from early on, with Harry from early on. And, I could name drop all day with people I've been lucky enough to work with and guys that are super high level. And I just, I'm lucky enough to call them friends, and I get to pick their brains when I need information. It's just been a blessing for me.
That's awesome. A lot to unpack there. It's funny.
Yeah.
But there's some paths crossing though. So Coventry, when you said Akron Coventry, I'll always remember, this is what I think of when I hear Akron Coventry. So my first ever state tournament getting to go watch was 1994. And we won state that year as a team. My dad was a high school coach. Well, the next year when we went, we didn't win. We lost to Akron Coventry. And they came out of the tunnel. We had this big tunnel at the state tournament. They came out of the tunnel. I'll never forget this. Cowboy hats and cowboy boots. They come up there to get their trophy. So we're all second place. I mean, I'm a little kid, but it looked like someone stole the team's dog or something, like second in the state isn't bad. But that's funny. Akron Coventry. That's my Coventry story. But in all of that, like, what has kept you doing? It's a busy schedule. So through all the time, what has kept you going and trying to, keep improving? Because you don't get to do the things that you just listed that you've done without, working your tail off. So what's been the motivating factor for you throughout that?
Well, going from coaching to reffing, I saw enough of my kids get screwed with poor officiating that I didn't want to get away from the sport, because the sport at that point had already given me so much. And, I enjoyed being around it. I felt like I had a good enough demeanor that I could be a solid official. But like you said, it took work. And I'm going to throw one more name out there, Stephen Curtis. Stephen is, a BFF, my brother from another mother. He's a Missouri guy that lives in Savannah now. And we started out, he was already officiating when I got done coaching. And I actually yelled at him plenty of times when I was coaching. So we went back a little bit with that when I would take my teams over to Savannah and we would wrestle in that direction. But we jumped on board with each other to push one another to get better. He didn't like things I was saying to him about what he was doing as an official, and he took it as a challenge to get better, and he got better. And then he would see me doing stuff and he'd get on my backside and I would get better. So we were like cross-county rivals, that two teams that push each other to get better, and both of them get that much better because you got that other one, to help you. And so we were lucky enough that we pushed each other to a point that we both were at the state tournament. I got him, I was doing college before him. And so I got him into doing college, and he cusses me regularly because of that. But he's, he got to do D2 nationals. I got to do D2 nationals. Then he made D1s, and he got to do that, 3 times, I think. And then he retired, and then they pulled him in to be this year, he's the coordinator for the Pac-12 for the officials. So, humble beginnings, and we had that rapport with one another where we could give each other a ration of, feedback. And the way I always explain it, I'm going to give you the feedback. If any official asks me if I can help them, I'll help them. But I got to see them first. And I'm going to give you honest feedback when I see you. And I tell them, I'm going to give you both barrels square in the chest. You might not be happy with what you hear from me, because I am going to be honest. From wrestling, we know that as coaches, if we aren't being honest with the kids, they're not going to get better. You can blow smoke up their ass and tell them that they're the greatest thing ever. But if you aren't being honest with how good they are or how bad they are, what their mistakes are, they're not going to get better, and they'll never get to a place where they need to be, potential wise. So officials, we do that as well. So we'll get that buddy, that guy that, you can do that with and be that way with. And he and I were that way, and we still are. So I've been lucky again to have those types of guys. And he and I, I was doing the Southern Scuffle, and I did for, 12, 15 years. I did for a long time as well. And he we would travel a ton together. We were heading to the Hokie Open one year, and it was nasty weather and rainy, and he was sleeping. We were driving his vehicle, and I'm driving, and I'd hit a wet spot, and I only had one hand on the wheel. I was like, whoa, hydroplaned a little bit. And so I put both hands on the wheel. It wasn't 5 minutes later that the tire blew out. And luckily I had both hands on the wheel, or else we'd have gone over the guardrail and down probably 100-foot drop. Because when that tire blew, it yanked. And luckily I had both hands on the wheel. God said, hey, we're going to give you this puddle back here to wake you up. Get both hands on the wheel, because you're going to need it here shortly. And sure enough, boom, the tire blew. And he's like, whoa, what? He came flying out of his, his seat, like, what's going on? And so we were lucky enough that we made it on in, on a spare tire. But scary stuff. Another time he and I were going to Pitt Johnstown for a D2 regional, and there was a snow-a-cane blowing through Pennsylvania and Delaware and Maryland, and it was just nasty. And he was over there, hands dug into the dash of the car. Man, it was it was scary stuff. And we're driving through the snow, and right behind the snow plow, nobody else on the road. We parked at a truck stop, and they had just scraped the parking lot, pulled in, left the heater on. Slept for a little bit, because going through the snow, we were only doing 20, 30 miles an hour, and it was taking a lot longer to get where we needed to be. So we got up there, and up Cora at UPJ, and Bruce Hasselrig. Bruce was the guy in charge, and he's like, well, glad you guys finally made it. So we got there, and the drifts were UPJ were up. 3-story buildings, they were up to the windows on the 3rd story. It's crazy, but I've been lucky. I've had great people that have been around me, and I've gotten to be around. And my child, who, like I said, just went out the door a minute ago, he's had a lot of these guys as his surrogate dads when we're at tournaments, and he goes and hangs out with them, and guys from California, from Ohio, from Colorado, he's Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, obviously, but he's gotten to see them, and he's going to be the next one on the tree. He's been reffing since he was in 9th grade, and now he's a senior this year, and next year he'll get to start doing some South Carolina and probably Georgia varsity. So,
well, that's awesome, first of all. But I bet he has some good insights to kids his age too. I bet he could be a resource to try to get more young people to follow, in his footsteps. He's obviously following in yours, but I mean, those are the officials that we need, right?
Yeah, we need the youth, and we do our best to beat the bushes. South Carolina, we go to different colleges and stuff, and try to just do little clinics with them, and when they'll do like their camp stuff, when they're doing tournaments or whatever at the end of the tournaments, we try to get there or send somebody in to do that, whether it's Dino, myself, or Carlos Mansell, who's a South Carolina guy. We will try to go in and at least get some eyes on them and try to do a little fishing, try to get them hooked, and maybe get one or two guys that are in there. And we need those younger guys, and we'll do it at high school tournaments as well. We're talking, and we did a senior night over in Savannah at South Effingham last week. So one of the kids, he's a senior, not going to college. He's staying and going to a tech school. So I heard that when they were going, hey, yeah, this one and this one. Oh, and this guy's tech school, he'd be staying local. Okay. So I went over and grabbed him, and we had a little chat and said, hey, how about maybe refereeing, once you graduate, you're going to stay in the area. We'd love to have you. And so it's working, I guess, to an extent. But we have a couple guys that went to Limestone College, Upper State in Gaffney, South Carolina. They're back home, both teaching, and they're in the Charleston area. And we have those guys reffing now. And so hopefully within a few years, they're going to be seasoned enough. We can get them to the state tournament as well. Dino has already said with Ty, he's like, yeah, old Ty. He said, I'm going to have him at the state tournament. He's going to beat my record. I said, which record's that, Dino? He said, I did my first state tournament at 21. He said, he's going to be there before that. And but he's gotten to go to Jazztown duels, Super 32, high school nationals, and he's gotten to see that level already. And at Super 32, he was, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And he had we have two evaluators there. And he grabbed some evaluation sheets, and he was evaluating, and he was on point with some of the stuff that the guys were missing. And it's more mechanical stuff, positioning, that kind of thing. Not that they were blowing calls, because they're all really good. Yeah. And those officials there don't blow a lot of calls, but mechanically they may have been a little off on something. Their timing, they threw the takedown a little late, or a little early, which we know happens. D1s, when Doc McCormick was in charge, they always had, every year we had the tough calls videos. And those were from the best guys in the country doing the D1s. And he would have clips of things that they missed. So we're human. We can make mistakes. And it doesn't matter if you're a guy just starting out, which you're going to make more mistakes, or if you're a D1 guy doing nationals, or D2 nationals, whatever, you can make mistakes. We all have to work on our craft regularly. To get back to your point earlier, you got to work on it, and you got to get feedback, and you have to have someone that's going to be honest with you. And things I always tell up and coming officials. And I had this conversation with a Georgia guy who's not an up and coming guy. He's been officiating for 18 years. He finally made the state tournament last year due to COVID, because a lot of the older guys didn't want to come because of COVID. So he got pulled in. And so he called me, actually it might've been Sunday or Monday this week. But anyway, we talked for an hour, and I was like, so these are the things you need to work on. I said, first, get yourself a mentor, somebody who can give you honest feedback and that you'll listen to when they give you the feedback. Second, get a notebook. Put weird situations in the notebook, whether it's something that happens to you, whether it's something that happens to another official that you see, because you can watch other guys and see things that are good and bad or whatever, see calls they make. And, if it's a weird situation, write it down. So the third thing you do, you get a camera. Get a cheap video camera, an iPad, whatever, set it up on the corner of the mat, set it by the head table, whatever. I decide if I'm going to do it, it's by the head table. Because then if there are interactions with the coaches, you can hear what you said. You can hear how you handled the coach. And you may want to adjust how you're doing stuff in that area of your officiating. So you take the information, you can watch your video, you can see how you did what you did and make adjustments. All right. The big eye in the sky, it don't lie. It's going to show you what you did right and wrong, show you your positioning, show you your signals. You'll see all that. So with your notes that you got in the book, talk to your mentor, call them, say, look, here's the situation. What do you think? I said, call me. I said, I'll talk wrestling. I love talking wrestling. You're saying like 3 words this whole time, Bryce. I'm just mowing down the words. I don't mind talking wrestling. And so I said, call me, dude. You're going to get better, hopefully. And you got to have the feedback. So anyway, that's what you need to do. Get the notebook, get the video, get a mentor, someone you can throw stuff back at, and they can give you honest feedback.
I love it. That's gonna be a short clip for sure. I'm writing down right now. Well, at the very beginning, we talked about kind of how we've gotten this situation, and the situation we're talking about is a shortage of officials. Pretty much every state other than Texas. I don't know if Rex Anderson's just selling me a good line of goods, but they from what I hear, they have more officials now than they did pre-COVID. So good for them. But again, we've got this shortage, let's say, everywhere else. And a lot of it, is due to some of the treatment that officials take. So, you just talked about how if you're an official and you want to become better, those are the 3 things that you need to be doing. What are some things that maybe coaches could be more mindful of or do to maybe, reduce, the attrition of officials? How can they still, let's say, argue's not the right word. How can they still campaign for what they believe is the right call for their wrestler, but do so in a way that isn't abusive to officials? I mean, what are some things that you've seen or coaches you admire for how they do that?
Well, jump back real quick to Rex Anderson. Rex and I go ways back as well. And Jaron Quincy is the other one in Texas. Those guys do a great job out there, and they're on point with what they do and how they do it. And I love those guys to death. But coaches, having been a coach, I was a dick. I mean, I was in the corner. I was loud. I was, but I wasn't loud and crazy toward the officials so much. I would get loud if they missed a call that was an obvious call, but I picked my battles. I wasn't chirping the entire match about, every little thing. Pick the battles that you can possibly win as a coach. Don't lose your mind over a caution that the guy's an inch above the elbow and you want that. Dude, if you're trying to win the match on cautions, you probably need to do more work in the room. Coaching, we know, is you got to get it done in the room. Some of the best coaches in our state, or the 2 states, are guys that they bust their humps in the room with the kids, and the kids know what to do. If the coach were to lose his tongue or have laryngitis and not be able to talk, those kids would know what to do when they got on the mat, because it's muscle memory. It's getting the work done in the room and it becoming instinctive. Because if you're having to think about what you're going to do on the mat, a better kid's going to eat you alive because you're a half a second behind everything. So yeah, you might be a first-year guy or a guy that's not that great. Okay, you'll win most of your matches. But when you get with the better competition and you're having to think about stuff and not be instinctive, it's not going to work. So coaches, pick your battles. Pick your battles about what you're arguing. We know that the wrestling rules book is one of the smallest and thinnest books there is in the National Federation of High Schools. Why? Because there's so much gray. There's so much judgment involved for the official. most of the time, you're not going to win the whatever it is you're arguing about. I've changed calls. I was doing a college match and I changed the call, and it was Wisconsin and Whitewater, I think. They were down in South Carolina wrestling, and I changed the call. And the coach, you what? You're changing the call? Yeah. You're right, coach. It was the wrong call. And after the duel, he came over. He's like, we would never. I've never seen that happen. The guys, they won't do that. It's like, I got no problem doing it. I'm out here to try to get the call right. I'm not trying to screw you. We don't show up trying to, I'm going to screw this team today. That's not what we do. We're guys that love the sport, and we want to give back to the sport. So we're not out there trying to, okay, I don't like red. Red makes me mad. Yeah, I'm wearing a red shirt, and so that doesn't really apply. But so I'm going to pick on the red team today. I don't, that's what I'm going to do. So that's not the case. I mean, with probability, you can flip that quarter 50 times, and you might have a streak of 10 or 12 in a row of all heads. Sometimes the calls go that way, and you just think it's we're picking on your team. It's just, that's how it happened. And that those close calls all happen to go toward the other team. And we're not picking on you, but coaches need to understand that they are part of the problem. They're there helping the kids as well. And coaches have a huge impact on the kids, and more so often than the parents, because it's what you go in a wrestling practice and deal with the level of stress, the level of cardio endurance, and the stress of trying to learn new stuff. Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. And coaches do a wonderful job. I love them for what they do. I love the impact they have on our kids, and the sport's a great sport for that, for learning the discipline and taking ownership for your mistakes. But the coaches, they have to understand that a new official can't be treated, and I'm not saying that an older, more senior official should be treated a certain way, but they're going to be able to handle it a little bit better. The skin's a little bit thicker. They've done it a little bit longer, and they can deal with your nonsense better. We have tools in our toolbox or our tool belt. Okay. One of them is an unsportsmanlike conduct. If the coach is getting out of line, whack them. Okay. A young official, they may be a little bit more afraid or hesitant to hit that unsportsmanlike. I got no problem. I'll hit you for unsportsmanlike. Coach, understand, you come to the table, we'll talk. And I'll tell him in my pre-meet, you come to the table and we talk about it, you probably aren't even going to walk away with misconduct. Now, everybody on here is going to go, oh, no, if he comes to the table, you got to hit him. Well, by rule, you're correct. I do have to hit him. But if I'm not wanting to create an adversarial relationship with this coach, all right, I'm going to have him come over and talk to me, and we're going to discuss it. And I'm going to say, okay, good. You understand? Okay. And they go away. No problem. But if you're coming from the bench, or if it's a tournament and you're in the chairs in the corner and you're losing your mind, you're going to get an unsportsmanlike conduct, coach. And that's how it's going to be. I hate it that you feel that bad about whatever it is. But I'm out here making the calls and I'm doing the best I can. I'm not trying to screw your kid. I'm not trying to get your kid hurt. I'm trying to be as fair as I can with the rules. I don't care which kid wins. I don't. I have no dog in the fight. I don't care, where, if you're from Ohio or you're Georgia or Florida or Cali, I don't care where you're from. Okay, so you spent $3,000 to $5,000 to get to this tournament on the East Coast. Okay. That's got no effect on or bearing on how I'm making my calls. I'm not going to give you a favorable call because you spent more money than this guy who's from Virginia coming to the tournament. And he got to drive and spent $20, $30 in gas, no. I'm gonna make the calls as fairly as I can, either way it goes. I'm not trying to screw your kids. And coaches need to understand that not only do our kids learn their behavior with the way they act and treat officials, but the way they do it will influence how they do coach if they come back to coaching. I've seen kids that are coaching now men that are coaching, that their coaches in high school were raving lunatics. And now these guys are pushing the boundaries of being raving lunatics. So they're going to learn from you. So I always try to go to the coaches, and I actually pulled a coach aside one time and I said, look, the way you're acting, you're saying that we need more officials, younger officials. I agree with you, coach. I absolutely agree. We need younger officials. Let me ask you this question, coach. If your kids on your team were to go out and officiate, and you treated them like you treated the official that was just on the mat, and it wasn't me, I was the head official, and he was berating the official that was out there, said, if your kids see you treating officials like that, how many kids on your team do you think would be interested in going out to be a wrestling referee? They've seen how you treat officials. Do you think they want to go out there, get on the mat, put on the stripes, and blow a whistle with you in the corner? Think about it. Would they, coach? Probably not. But yet you want some younger officials out here. You're part of the problem, coach. You, sir, are part of the problem.
You hit it on the head, man. We've done 3 events this year for the junior high team I get to coach. And I always, in our coaches meeting, I always just say, hey guys, it's a junior high tournament. We have a shortage of officials. Let's not lose our minds today. No one's getting a scholarship. And if you would, at the end of the day or at some point, tell an official thanks, and you're grateful for them being here. And you just set the day that way. At least I'm hoping I am. So that's just something that we can do too. It's a little uncomfortable because no one says that, right? And be the one guy in the room that says, hey guys, think about the officials. But I think it's a little thing that we can all do, and it doesn't cost me any money. It costs me a couple words, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Dude, this has been awesome. Really appreciate your time. I have one more. I'm going to throw a curveball out here. I don't even know if you watched it. If you watched any of the journeyman duels that were going on yesterday and the day before.
Unfortunately, I did not. I know several of the guys that were down there reffing it, but I didn't get to watch any of it.
All right. Well, watch the NC State and the NC State Iowa match with Jaden Ironman, and I want to know if there was a defensive fall that might have been missed, because that is all that is going on Twitter right now.
Yeah, I heard. I did have someone mention that to me, but I didn't see it, so I really couldn't comment on it.
Just
if it was or wasn't. So I will get to it probably here over the break. But I just haven't done it yet. I will, and I'll get back with you on it about that. But yeah,
not to ruin it, but if next time those guys wrestle, I mean, if that match goes the other way, NC State wins that duel.
Absolutely. It was tight. It was tight. Those teams both wrestled tough. And Papalizio is doing a great job. He's doing a great job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who was it? I can't remember. Caleb Young got lefty headlocked through his back and pin too. So a lot of good stuff there, man.
Big bonus points, man. Big bonus points. Huge. It's huge. I mean, a major, it's nice, but you get 6. Yeah. That's huge in a duel like that. So,
well, hey,
and it probably doesn't happen next time. He probably doesn't.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Hey, stick on. All right. I want to catch up with you after.
Will do.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.